still doesn't show that we're live. Now we are. Crazy.
Okay.
I didn't quite exactly go the way I wanted it to, but anyways, we learn, we live, we lie live, and you never know what's going to happen live. So there you go. Welcome into Tiger Talks Wrestling. Over there. All right. Let's see it on YouTube over on the side. Make sure. There we go. Welcome into Tiger Talks Wrestling. Nonetheless, I am, of course, your host, Tony, joined by Eddie, our good man. Welcome into the show, Eddie.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. Thanks. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You know, this is our new show, and I know people are going to because we're talking instant classics of professional wrestling from the past, and who doesn't love past wrestling? And it's going to be a great show.
So, as Eddie was alluding to here, if we get things to cooperate, we'll see. Because Restream's been giving me fits even after I restarted my computer. I gotta have my fan on here. But this is a brand new show. We're calling it The Three Faces of Wrestling. Of course, the three big names from wrestling of yore, if you will. WWF/E, WCW, and of course, I think many people's favorite, Extreme Championship Wrestling, ECW.
Okay, so that was Tony's version. Mine's is welcome to Three Faces of Wrestling. You have the World Wrestling Federation, and in sports entertainment. You have WCW, and then who doesn't want to go to the extreme of ECW?
Indeed. If you guys have any questions, as you see there, you can ask questions in the chat. We'll get to them at any. But and when you talk about those three companies, and we're talking the 90s, you got to first go back, of course, to 1995. Because that was when Monday Night Raw had been on for 2 years at that point in time, getting closer to 3, as WCW would decide to start a war. Start the Monday Night Wars, of course, as we would have Monday Night Raw go up against WCW Monday Nitro on TNT. And we've talked about it before. I don't know that we have that much on the channel, but we've talked about it outside. Of course, the debut episode of Monday Nitro, happened in the Mall of America and featured the return to WCW for the Total Package, Lex Luger. The first person to kind of be a big name to jump ship from one company to the other at that point in time. Not that a few others hadn't before then, but he'd be the star when it comes to talking about Nitro jumps at that.
Oh yeah, when that happened, I remember it was like clearly because when the first Monday Nitro started, WWE was preempted for 2 weeks due to the Westminster Dog Show that used to air on USA Network, and I watched the previous before the Nitro that Luger was wrestling on that, and then all of a sudden he pops up on WCW, and I'm like, what the hell is Lex Luger doing on there? But it was at a time Bischoff wanted that kick in the mouth, and he did it. He kicked him right in the mouth, and the war was on.
That it was. But of course, when Nitro began, you already had seen the jumping ships for guys like Hulk Hogan, for Macho Man Randy Savage, for Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Earthquake could even jump ship over Big Boss Man, etc. A lot of the guys from the 80s, WWE, and the very early 90s had jumped ship over to WCW, so they were at this point in time, and Edgar being on both shows pretty much. But the one time that you remember the most, which we're not going to focus too much on this because this would happen later on and even past 1996 that we're going to talk about tonight. But one of the things that sticks out the most when you talk about the Monday Night Wars was one person, Ravishing Rick Rude. Because he would do the same thing as Lex. He would be on both Monday Nitro in the same night. And
yep. I mean,
the thing was, as we know, Raw was recorded back in that time. But Rick Rude had a completely different look. I mean, it's the same day the shows are airing, but show to the other.
Almost definitely when Rick Rude when that happened, Rick Rude was all bearded and everything. He goes on to Monday Nitro and he joins the NWO, and has just his little mustache and stuff like that, and he went from DX to the New World Order in one night.
Yeah, and he did. Rick, because he is a former WCW World Champion at that point in time, though he wasn't a wrestler, now when that came, but still, it was definitely something major that happened. Of course, during the Monday Night Wars, we'd see the back and forth between Raw and Nitro. Nitro would dominate Raw for 83 weeks at one point in time, hence the reason that Eric Bischoff now has a show called 83 Weeks. But in the end, we know how it would end up going down, which we get into later on in another episode, of course. But this was the start of the Monday Night Wars. But it wasn't just... Everybody likes to focus on those two brands, those two companies, if you will. WCW and WWE, or WWF at the time. But ECW was making a name for itself as well at that point in time.
You know, one thing about ECW, yes, was it making headway around the people back then used to call it the wrestling circuit. You know, people knew that ECW was a little
Yes.
out of Philadelphia. Before it became ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling. It was called Eastern Championship Wrestling, and their owner, if you go back into like you go back into Peacock and watch ECW, it actually shows some of the matches of before it became Extreme. For God's sakes, they had Sandman as a surfer.
That would... Yeah, I might have to go and try and find that at some point in time, because I've never seen Sandman as a surfer.
Yeah. Yeah, and they had Tommy Dreamer, who I met, really nice guy. They had him dressed like he was a Chippendale stripper.
I do remember I've seen that before, though. For Dreamer.
And Taz,
is something you don't forget.
And Taz was the Tasmanian Devil, and he teamed with Jimmy Snuka.
Huh. That's amazing.
And you gotta say, wait till you watch it. A lot of people,
I don't think, realize that.
Yeah, wait till you watch it. Wait till you watch the video. They got a guy dressed up. They have a guy. They had Sabu come out like Hannibal Lecter.
Interesting.
Yeah. Wait until you see the
talk about.
Wait until you see the old ECW. Oh, I will.
Yeah.
It's trash.
So when we talk about ECW, of course, version, the WWECW. But when we talk about Monday Night Wars and leading into this, there's one thing I will mention. One of the worst pay-per-views in WWE history, to many people, I would completely agree with it because I have watched it recently, was ECW's December to Dismember. That wasn't the first time they did an ECW December to Dismember. 1995, in December 9th, 1995, they did the very first December to Dismember in Philly in the ECW arena. But at least that one was main evented with a decent main event. They had Raven's Nest of Raven, Stevie Richards, and the Eliminators, Cronus and Perry Saturn, for anybody who doesn't know. And the Heavenly Bodies teamed up to go up against the Pitbulls, Public Enemy, and Tommy Dreamer in that main event, which was had to have been so much better than that Extreme Elimination Chamber that we got at the WWE version of December to Dismember.
No, the Gigolo Jimmy Del
I know,
Rey.
Eddie. Del Rey and
Tommy Cornette was there.
It doesn't list Cornette as their manager or anything.
Oh, for the love of God.
You would have thought he would have been with Heavenly Bodies.
Yeah.
So here was what it says when you click on it to read it. Apparently before that was the Ultimate Jeopardy Steel Cage match. Before that, Public Enemy went against the Heavenly Bodies in a tag team match that Public Enemy won. But there in the main event, the Ultimate Jeopardy Steel Cage match, which would be implemented if they were the one that got pinned or submitted. Whoever defeated him would get his valet Beulah for a week. If Tommy Dreamer got pinned or submitted, then he would have to shave his head. Public Enemy, if either one of them got pinned, they would be forced to wrestle one another. The Pitbulls would be forced to split up, and whoever defeated them would get their valet Francine for a week. The Eliminators would be forced to leave ECW, and their manager Jason would have to have his head. Stevie Richards would be locked in a cage for 5 minutes with the members of the other team. And the Heavenly Bodies, all stipulations for their team would be enforced if either one of them got beat.
I just got a headache with all that.
So, in the end, Tommy Dreamer, Public Enemy, and the Pitbulls won. It's kind of like War Games in a way because that's 2 teams of 5, and there's a man advantage in there, but it's only 1 ring and 1 cage. Tommy Dreamer, in the end, pinned Stevie Richards. So all 5 members of Dreamer's team got 5 minutes of Stevie Richards after the match.
And so you're telling me that Tommy Dreamer won everything. Look who he's married to. He even won Beulah.
I know, right? So Stevie might have had 5 minutes alone with the other 5 guys, but Tommy Dreamer's tag team partners, all 4 were handcuffed to the cage by Raven earlier in the match. So it was really just Dreamer and Richards for 5 minutes.
That didn't come out right.
But
Stevie Richards had 5 minutes with all those guys. He must be a slow worker down there.
Maybe. After Dreamer began to beat up Stevie Richards, Raven and his allies re-entered the cage and attacked Dreamer, so it didn't really matter. And of course, who else would come down to save the day for Dreamer and his teammates? Who usually made the save for a lot of the baby faces when it came to ECW?
Oh,
it was usually one of the
New
last
Jack.
songs you heard in ECW. No, well, yeah, a lot of times it was, but no, not in this situation. Enter the.
Oh, Sandman, yeah. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
95. Who was it? I was like, wait, who was it? Because I was like, wait, New Jack did most of that at the end of ECW.
Yeah. The Sandman made the save. I mean, if it wouldn't have been for all those different stipulations, like I said, that sound like a lot like War Games for the most part, but just in 1 cage and 1 ring. But it still sounds better than the Extreme Elimination Chamber we got.
Look who's in charge.
Let's dive into 1996, shall we?
Most definitely, let's do it.
Right? All right. I'm going to share the page here because we're going to bring up these pay-per-views and we won't really talk about everything from them. But the very first pay-per-view, actually live pay-per-views, they were just live events is what they called them for ECW. They weren't on pay-per-view, I don't believe. Hoping that's sharing. It says it's sharing. First show of 1996 was actually happened January 5th and aired on TV on January 23rd from Philly, the ECW arena. You got ECW House Party. The show would kick off with 911 and Rey Mysterio defeating the Eliminators.
Oh, yeah.
Jason. Yeah. And I can't read that well. That's why I'm kind of going to read it off here. A certain individual that many people would get to know eventually, Rob Van Dam, would defeat Axel Rotten in the second match.
The whole effing show.
Yes. Too Cold Scorpio with Woman. We know that name. Defeated Mikey Whipwreck to win the ECW World Television Championship. I never realized Woman was a manager in ECW, really, though. That's something new.
She was. But man, what a way to be put together with Flash Funk.
I know, right? Gold Scorpio or Flash Funk. The Human Suplex Machine, Taz, with Bel Alfonso, of course, as manager, defeated Hack Myers, whoever that is, with the Taz mission. Donald Haviland, an American professional wrestler better known by his ring name Hack Myers. He was in ECW from 1996.
He was a beast, Hack Myers.
I was going to say, he almost looks like a mini version of Bam Bam.
He does.
Then Bubba Ray Dudley with Big Dick Dudley, Chubby Dudley, Dances with Dudley, and Sign Guy Dudley defeated Jimmy Del Rey with Mr. Hughes in his corner.
You did it wrong.
Right.
Ray Dudley.
Yes, you're right. I wonder where Devon was in that situation.
Devon was thrown on the Performance Center.
That wasn't a thing back then, huh?
No, but the ECW I think it was called Hardcore Academy.
Okay. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, whoever they were, the Bad Crew, because I even scroll over their names and it just tells me they're a tag team consisting of Jake Kemmerer and Paul Osek Jr. Wrestled JT Smith and Tony.
I have no idea who the hell that is.
I mean, JT Smith and Tony Stetson I've heard of. The four of them wrestled in a tag team match to a no contest anyway. I'm surprised they don't show a picture of JT Smith, but I remember that name and Anthony/Tony Stetson. Neither one of them has a picture. Woman was a manager for somebody else on this show too. Because she was in the corner as the Sandman defeated Conan to retain the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. So Woman had the Sandman and Too Cold Scorpio as clients, if you will, back then. Interesting. The suicidal, genocidal, death-defying Sabu, homicidal, I forgot to mention in there, with Paul E. Dangerously, defeated Stevie Richards with the Blue Meanie. Oh, wow. And in the main event, Public Enemy defeated the Gangstas in a tag team street fight. Mustafa and New Jack.
Because that was their debut, the Gangstas.
I'm surprised knowing how over that team got with ECW. They actually lost that first match. Honestly.
Yeah, that was their debut because previously before this, they were in Jay Cornette's Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Say his name and he appears. I could believe in John. I could believe in John.
Right.
American, Scotland, and Canada, and Mexico.
We believe in John.
Here we go. John. Wow, into the show.
How's it going?
Hello, feet.
Henry. John, what the hell?
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, John has left the building.
Right? He says, I don't want none of that.
I know, right?
And maybe he's back. Maybe it shows it. It's just being slow. That's all today. It doesn't let him in now. I'm in when it does. That's for Ease of House Party. Hey, we got Pyro.
I know, it worked. Damn, it is
That from the
raining
list.
down.
I'm going to try this again. There we go, maybe. All right. The next show. It showed that he was in, and then it shows he was gone. Now he's back in.
What up?
Hi. Do we hear you? Is the next question.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, then.
There we go. Now we got some. All right. Well, we're going to move on from ECW to WWE from 1996. Just scrolling here. I remember this. No. So here eventually. On off the screen for a minute. Of course, Royal Rumble would kick off with Ahmed Johnson beating Jarrett by DQ. Smoking Guns beat the Body Donnas, Sonny, to retain the tag team titles. Goldust with Marlena would defeat Razor Ramon to win the Intercontinental Championship. Shawn Michaels would win his second straight Royal Rumble match by last eliminating Diesel, and the Royal Rumble Taker would beat Hart by DQ in the WWE Championship event. I'd say that there was only really in 1990 a lot of changes, and of course with WWE, as we mentioned at the top of the show, we had a lot of guys leaving the company, going over to WCW, more so vice versa. They're kind of in a transition at this point in time. And in that Royal Rumble match, he comes. But to see in that year they had the year before, or the couple years before, seeing how they did it, and how separation took place in there. It's interesting to see him be the last two in there. Of course, it wasn't for very long, but.
Speaking of that Rumble match, what was going on with the two giant twin security guards?
Oops, I turned my volume.
Like squad team 1 and 2 or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I can look at the
Wow,
whole list.
what a star-studded lineup for the Royal Rumble. You had Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Henry O'Goblin, Bob Backlund, Jerry Lawler, Bob Holland,
Yep.
King Mabel, Jake the Snake
Okay.
Roberts, Dory Funk Jr.,
Yep.
Yokozuna, 2-3 Kid, Tico Oma. I have no idea who the hell that is. Sabio Vega, Vader, Doug Gable. Gable, yeah, okay. Squad
The-
team 1 and 2. Owen, Sean, Hakushi and Tatanka, Aldo Montoya, Diesel. What the hell's his name? Kama, the Ringmaster, Barry Horowitz,
That's Stone Cold.
Batu, Isaac
Yeah, Ringmaster
Yankum,
Stone Cold.
Marty Jannetty, the British
Where's that
Bulldog,
game?
and everybody's favorite, the number 30th, Duke the Dumpster Droese.
Josie.
Whatever happened to Jersey? Did he
John was,
do
of
anything
course,
else?
Droese retired, and I think he lost his leg.
huh? Could be.
I think I can see what happened to him.
So, Sean, go ahead. As you go down, I'm going to go over my comment here. Sean was, of course, the second person ever to win back Royal, but I feel like the 2 Rumbles that he won. I mean, the first one he won, you had participants enter every minute. And this one was back to the usual minute and a half or 2 minutes. But still, just a list of people that was just there that were involved in a role. For the most part.
I feel like 96 was much more stacked than 95.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm reading about Duke the Dumpster Droese. He became a special education teacher, and then in 2013, on September 13 and 2013, Droese was indicted on 3 counts of delivering a controlled substance of having sold OxyContin and to an undercover cop. And in July, and he was given 3-year sentence of 30 days in prison. And then he has since resigned from his teaching position, and then he lost his leg to a staph infection.
Man, Duke the Dumpster Josie. Gotta love him.
So he is really doing good.
Dumpster. That sounds.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, his career was like Snogger later.
But, right. Duke had beaten Hunter Hearst Helmsley in the free-for-all match before the show. Man, I forgot that. I remember watching the free-for-all pay-per-view before the pay-per-view went live. But that was on TV Network for people that had that back in the day. Interesting that went the main event of this show. It was one of the Royal Rumble main event, but in 1996 kind of be the prelude to what into. We're not going to talk a lot about it. prelude to what we'd get into come 1997 between The Undertaker and Bret the Hitman Hart.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Because if you go back, it was Shawn winning the Rumble, Bret retaining his title, and then we'll get what happened at WrestleMania. So it shows that they were friends then, and then they became bitter enemies.
Right. Huh. This Royal Rumble apparently was King Mabel's last appearance until he would return on June 30th, 98 for one-off match with Ken Shamrock on Raw. And was also Jake the Snake's return since his last appearance at WrestleMania 8 on 1990. Of course, that would lead into something big while Jake the Snake's return to WWE at the time. So, big things would come out of people that were involved in the Royal Rumble match. But overall, you could tell they're in a transitional period, so as to speak right then. I would say one thing to me that does stick out from this, of course, was Goldust beating Razor win the Intercontinental Championship, though.
Oh yeah, hands down. But if you look at that match, that's when the Kid was a member of the $1 Million Corporation.
Yes. Goldust was still newer to the company as that character, anyways, too. So, but it was interesting to see Razor got the title. Of course, the bigger things for him later this year as well, which we'll get into in a little bit. But all right, there. Rumble. The thing was back in the 90s, mid-90s, we used to do anything in January. We don't have in January. Wise about pay-per-view wise for them. They just had Nitro, of course, and had a nice main. Their Saturday main event show on TBS.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you go back to ECW. And then spent on 2 to 3 different shows in a month, which we'll get into the first one here in a moment. Let me change it over. Maybe. Of course, ECW Big Apple Blizzard Blast in February 3rd of 1990. This is being very slow until I do anything. So the Got Blizzard Blast, of course, happened in New York City on the Lost Italian Hall. Perhaps that's a place you, Betty?
I couldn't hear because you were going out. What name? What's the name of the place?
The Lost Battalion Hall.
The Lost Battalion Hall.
I think it's in Queens. I think it was in Queens. Yeah. Let me see that. Oh, that shitty place.
It's in New York. Yeah. It almost like a school.
It actually was a school for the deaf.
Huh. Okay. But anyway,
I mean,
the show,
whatever you
of course,
get.
was recorded on February 6th and 13th. Let's start with the Human Super Machine Taz. Bella Alfonso, the Shark Attack Kid with the mission. The Shark Attack Kid. What
I have no.
that was.
I have no idea who that is.
I think we're Shark Boy is who it reminds me of having that name. I think
That's what I
Eddie,
was thinking.
we've talked about this before. We might have to go back into the archives of ECW and come up with the list of the odd names that they had for characters back in that version of ECW and even with the WWE ECW version as well.
I mean, yeah. I mean, on the top of the list, you got to go to ECW.
Yeah, you're right. So to follow that match, you get 800B with Damian Kane and Lady Alexandra defeating Axel Rotten and El Puerto Riquino, Manuel and Victor Santiago. El Puerto Riquino. Okay. Excuse me for not pronouncing that correctly. I'm sure I butchered that big time, but still. Puerto Rican guy, anyways. Pablo Martinez. The Eliminators defeated Cactus Jack and Mikey Whipwreck with Raven to win the East Tag Team titles. Shane
There's a
Douglas
name
and
I remember.
Tommy
It
Dreamer.
might be Whipwreck.
Right. Shane Douglas and Tommy Dreamer with defeat Raven and Stevie Richards. Wanalea. Here's a name you'll remember.
I remember her.
Yeah. Rey Mysterio Jr. would defeat Juventud Guerrera to retain the WWA World Welterweight Championship. How about this tag team? The
Man, that sounds
Pitbulls.
like someone that will never make it to the Hall of Fame.
Right. The Pitbulls would defeat the Headhunters. Wow. Chris Jericho, before he became a bigger name in WCW, would actually defeat Rob Van Dam. Ray Dudley would defeat JT Smith. Sabu beat Mr. Hughes. And in the main event, Too Cold Scorpio and the Sandman would defeat Gangsta. So the Gangstas would be 0-2 pretty at that point in these kind of events. Interesting card. That's about all worth saying for that, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. There will be some shows and matches worth mentioning. We'll go into the first WCW pay-per-view. That, of course, is Raw. Me. Now, I was looking at the card for Super Brawl earlier, and get pulled up here. Interesting card. When I told you, Eddie, I went back and watched a couple 96 pay-per-views WCW. And this kind of reminiscent of it. You got the Nasty Boys beating Public Enemy in a street fight. Sounds very familiar to it too. Later on in Bash. Jayad with Diamond Doll defeated Diamond Dallas Page to retain the World title. In the total package, Lex Luger would defeat Hunt to retain the World Tag Team title. Conan would defeat One Man Gang to retain the U.S. title. Taskmaster would defeat Brian Pillman, and I respect you threat match. Little caveat to that. He was walking away after that. I would say I respect you, Booker Man, as he was leaving WC on that night. And I understand what Taskmaster contest after that. Sting and Lex Luger would wrestle Road Warriors to a double countout. Double duty for Sting and Luger. Ric Flair with Woman would defeat Macho Man Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth in a steel cage match to win the WCW World Championship after Elizabeth had turned on the Macho Man. And the Immortal Douchebag, as we like to call him, Hulk Hogan would defeat the Giant with Jimmy Hart and the Taskmaster in a steel cage match. So it was a double match for the. I was going to go back and watch it. I didn't get a chance to, but quite interesting that this was where Miss Elizabeth turned on the Macho Man, gave her high heel to Ric Flair to use as a weapon to lead to Ric Flair pinning Macho Man and winning the WCW World Championship on it.
I remember this match really well. I was like, okay. Well, as you know, ranked the WCW World Heavyweight title at a Nitro. He beat Flair at Nitro, and then Flair won it back at this event with the help of Elizabeth. And that was a big thing because if you look at Elizabeth's track record, she never did that until she went to WCW. I dived in with Randy. You know, when she came in, she was a new person with a new attitude, but damn, she still looked good.
Now, as I said, the shows I was watching, you can tell she was prepared to what we see from her in WWE. Of course, Giant had to be on last because that was the big at the time was getting.
Yeah, I know John would agree with me. I always felt like I know John would agree with me with this. I always felt like Paul White in WCW basically had to deal with the bullshit of Hulk Hogan. Hogan always had to win. Hogan always had to be the man. But
Right.
when the Giant faced Randy Savage, yeah, he beat him once, but you know, Savage always made Paul White look good. Hogan was just like, well, I'm better than everybody, so you can kiss my ass.
I do agree with you on that, but I will say, even when Paul White came to WWF as the Big Show, it was basically the same thing all over again with dealing with Hogan, but with what was popular on our brand.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, he was a 7-foot, 500-pound pile of steamy monkey crap.
Oh yeah. And
My bad, long hair.
yeah.
All right. That is true. Just Last Giant definitely didn't get what he should have gotten in a lot of places. Move on. From the ECW. The Bad Crew defeated, and Judge Dredd defeated Dino Sendoff, Donnie Allen, and the Dirt Bike Kid. Interesting. Spiro Sagurdo defeated Ricciano, or however the hell it's pronounced. Taz would defeat Joel Hart with the Taz mission. Ray Dudley would beat Mr. Hughes. The Bruise Brothers, Don and Ron Bruise, Don and Ron Harris, I would believe, later known as, in WWE. Yep. Did the Headhunters, JT Smith beat Axel Rotten. Francine actually teamed up with the Pitbulls to defeat Stevie Richards and the Eliminators in a 6-person dog collar match. Too Cold Scorpio and Sabu would compete to a 30-minute time limit draw with the ECW World Television title online. Shane Bliss beat Cactus Jack, and even with Kimona Wanalea, Stevie Richards and the Blue Meanie defeated the same with Missy Hyatt to retain the ECW World Championship. A 6-person mixed tag team dog collar match. Not something I think that has probably really been done since then.
I don't see a lot of dog collar matches that much anymore.
That's true.
But are we getting one pretty? I don't know. I'm also trying to figure out the last one we had.
I want to. No, I think they've done one since then. It's time since WWE. I have to
We
look it
have a
up.
lot of Texas. We have a lot of Texas ballroom matches.
Right. AEW did the dog collar match between Brody Lee and Cody, but I think they've had one since too. I think Swerve and Hangman had one.
Oh
We
yeah,
need to
I
bring
remember.
back the Texas Tornado.
The last time WWE had a match. Anyway. Shane Douglas and Cactus Jack.
Oh,
An interesting show. That actually was the night before. When they recorded those matches. As we go. Here we go. Shit, he's over here. In Your House 6. It was simply just called In Your House. And what was that for him? Oh, Louisville, Kentucky. God. You got the bad guy, Razor Ramon. Getting a little payback after the Rumble. Get out of here again. Really? Razor Ramon beat the 1-2-3 with Ted DiBiase in the Crybaby match. Oh my god, I forgot about that match almost. Wish I could fully. Hunter Hearst Helmsley with Elizabeth Hilden defeated me. Apparently she was an actress or American adult model. Okay. I didn't know that, but okay. Yokozuna defeated the British Bulldog with Jim Cornette by DQ. Shawn Michaels beat Owen Hart with Jim Cornette to become the number 1 contender for the WWF Championship at WrestleMania. Bret Hart beat Diesel by escaping the cage in a steel cage match to retain the WWE Championship. And they had 3 dark matches afterwards. This is pretty much a 5-match card. Interesting.
welcome to the early years of In Your House.
Yeah. That is for sure, because I know a lot of the In Your Houses wasn't all that. The fact that you had Diesel, of course, main event in the steel cage. I remember that cage match that those two men had. It was pretty decent, but it was also, of course, as we mentioned, this is towards the end Razor's run in WWF. Of course, it looked like Diesel had the match won at one point, only to have the Undertaker pop up through the ring to stop him and pull him underneath the ring during the cage match, and therefore leading to Bret to Diesel versus Taker at WrestleMania. So,
Oh yeah.
I do believe
When I look at the two matches that we're actually going to talk about, the Crybaby match was it was a match. It was a little embarrassing to see. It was a little embarrassing to see Sean Waltman, get treated like that, the way that he came in red hot, and then towards the end, you have a Crybaby match. I mean, what a way. The Bret Diesel match, we knew why, Kevin lost is because of he was going to face Taker at Mania, and we're going to have that match with Bret and Shawn. I mean, it what it was, and for I always called In Your House a filler pay-per-view to the Big Four.
they were back then.
Yeah, and they were fair, and they were $15 a piece.
Yeah, they were cheap. I know. Which was good.
Yeah.
Hey.
For some reason, I have black around my whole eye, but I haven't been sleeping. Okay. Yeah, but it was it was an okay pay-per-view. So that's the only thing I can say about that crappy pay-per-view.
For sure. All right. Just showing all that, I'm going to do it quick. Next, you'd have ECW's Just Another Night that happened February 23rd, 1996 in Pennsylvania, the Briar Cliff Fieldhouse. The only matches worth mentioning, really, the names that people remember: Pitbulls defeated Stevie Richards and Blue Meanie. Bill Alfonso with Taz would actually defeat Todd Gordon with Bam as the two managers wrestled in the short match. The Eliminators beat Bubba Ray Dudley and Hack Myers to retain the tag titles. Sandman beat Axel Rotten. Too Cold Scorpio and Sabu went to another time limit draw. Bam Bam would defeat Cactus Jack. And in the main event, Raven would retain the ECW World title. So yeah, kind of aptly named exactly what it was, Just Another Night in ECW.
Yep. And Tom Gordon, remember you mentioned the name again, Bill Alfonso. Tom Gordon was the owner of ECW.
Oh, really? At that point,
he's the one. He was the owner. Then Paul Heyman bought it over.
Okay. Then we go into March. Another ECW show. They had Extreme Bash. Actually, had 2 days in a row of recording in the Lost Battalion on the 9th that would air on 3 different TV. On this show, you got Jericho beating Cactus Jack. Why was Mick Foley putting over a young Chris Jericho? Taz beat Mikey Whipwreck. The Eliminators beat the Pitbulls with Francine to retain the tag titles. Hoovy beat Ray in a 2 out of 3 falls match, which I'm sure that would have been an amazing one to watch. Those two go at it in 2 out of 3 falls. Juventud Guerrera and Rey Mysterio. Big Titan defeated Judge Dredd. Scorpio and Sabu again went to a time limit draw. The Dudleys, Bubba Ray and Dances with Dudley beat the Headhunters. And then in the main event, Raven beat Sandman to retain the ECW World title the night one. Night two, the Eliminators beat Bubba and Hack Myers to retain the tag titles. Jericho beat Taz by DQ. Ray beat Juventud Guerrera in the 2 out of 3 falls match. They ran 6 falls between the two nights between Rey Mysterio Jr. and Juventud Guerrera. They probably split it. 3 falls for each. Cactus Jack beat Mikey Whipwreck. That was big in ECW back then. Cactus Jack and Mike. That would eventually lead to, of course, them two being a team.
Oh, definitely. And my God. Paul Heyman. Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you. We need to go back into the original ECW archives to see who the fuck was Judge Dredd. Paul Heyman must have watched that movie with Stallone and go, I have a perfect guy to play Judge Dredd. Let's do it.
Yeah, because it doesn't let you scan over it or anything either. So the guy Big Titan that beat him, same guy that was the fake Razor Ramon in the eventual split after Razor and Diesel left.
Oh, yeah, I know. I already knew that part. I forgot what his name was.
Richard Bogner.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, may he rest in peace because he had a shitty gimmick in WWE trying to replace Scott Hall. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Right? To finish off Bash, the Bruise Brothers wrestled the Pitbulls to a no contest. Sabu beat Big Titan. Raven beat Shane Douglas to retain the WECW event. The Gangstas finally picked up a win, beating the Headhunters and Too Cold Scorpio and the Sandman in a 3-way tag team elimination match. So Woman got replaced by Missy Hyatt. Missy Hyatt was Scorpio and the Sandman's manager at that point.
Well, yeah, because Woman went to WCW, so they had her play with. I mean, hell, if Missy Hyatt was actually a woman, that she would have been in WCW still around that time, but she didn't like working with Sensational Sherry.
Interesting. Right, this one I'll actually share. Up into CW Uncensored from Tupelo, Mississippi. Conan would defeat Eddie Guerrero to retain the United States Heavyweight Championship in the opening match. I may have to go back and watch because I know Conan and Eddie were good together. How about this? The Belfast Bruiser. Anybody who doesn't know, who was the Belfast Bruiser, Eddie?
Fit Finley.
It was. He would via disqualification, win over Lord Steven Eagle, otherwise known as, of course, Sir William Regal.
Or what I call him, Charlie Dempsey's daddy.
Yes. This Colonel Robert Parker defeated Medusa. The Booty Man with the Babe defeated DDP in an I Quit wrestling match. That really held over. Oh my God. The Giant with Jimmy Hart defeated Loch Ness in a 2-minute 30 match. I didn't even remember that was a match. Sting and Booker T. Wow, I didn't know those two ever teamed together, but okay. Defeated the Road Warriors in a Chicago street fight. That's weird. And the main event was a Doomsday cage match where Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man, Randy Savage, defeated Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ming, the Barbarian, Lex Luger, the Taskmaster, Z Gangsta, and The Ultimate Solution, with Woman and Miss Elizabeth and Jimmy Hart in their corner. So 2v8 inside of a cage.
Yep, and if anybody don't know who the Z Gangster is, watch SummerSlam 89, where you could see the Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah. Teaming up with Zeus
Yes.
against Hogan and Brutus.
Yes. The Ultimate Solution, Robert Alexander, aka Jeep Swenson Jr., American professional wrestler and stuntman and actor. Okay.
I mean, that motherfucker was scary looking in that match.
Yeah, I believe it.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen Uncensored 96, watch it and then be cringe of how the Hulkamania, the Mega Powers won. They won the match with a frying pan.
Well, no, a loaded glove. Oh,
A
no, it
loaded
was
glove
right.
that then Randy hit. Yep, and Randy hit everybody with a frying pan that the handle broke off and he started just smacking people with one arm.
Yeah. So it was the Doomsday Cage match was a stacked cage of compartments. If I remember right, Prince was kind of like the 3 cages, or was it just 2 for this version? Maybe.
I think it was 3.
Yeah, I think that's what we'd see later on towards the end of WCW. You'd have to fight their way through it. Each cage had several compartments, different things in them. Randy and Hulk fight their way down through the cage, starting on the roof. In the end, Edge pinned Flair after Luger punched Flair with a loaded glove. So Luger punched his own partner. And like you said, during the match, the Booty Man came in and gave the Mega Power frying pan his weapon. Of course, the Booty Man, better known as Brutus the Beefcake.
Oh, the man with no name. Oh, the butcher.
Like that too. Yeah,
or the disciple.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. He wasn't the disciple then. Ed Hogan. I mean, for God's sakes, this man had more names than the Big Show turned heel.
I think so. And back to Vegas.
You know.
But Hogan and Savage winning with those odds against him, just like you and John were saying, it was just Hogan being Hogan. Hogan had to win everything. Because honestly, there's no way that any 2 men should be 8 others in a match. I don't care, even if Luger did turn on his partners.
Most definitely. And speaking of Luger, I don't know if anybody want to hear this, but I think it'd be a thing to actually bring up. If any of you guys have watched the Lex Luger match, the motherfucker sells so many times by doing that. Like, why are you screaming so loud? Nobody's hitting you hard, bitch.
Exactly. He was a decent wrestler, but I think some people thought he was better than what he. But
Luger, you know, with Luger, he was a magnificent specimen. The man trained.
yes.
I mean, but going up against Hogan and the mega stars could have handled it, because Luger really sucked when he was around Hogan, because he always had to be a supportive cast. And to me, I always thought, if you could think I'm wrong about this, I always felt like in '96 Luger got more of a push than Sting did, and Sting should have got a better push.
Oh no, I agree with you.
But I know why Sting didn't get a push, because Hogan was afraid, because hands down, I think Sting could have beat Hogan hands down clean, and Hogan always put down people that he knew that could kick his ass in a real wrestling match.
Right. That's for sure. No, I agree with you on that. I think they met in the most part in different things that Hogan just didn't want to lose to Sting until he finally. But we'll get into that more as we go through this series. Let's jump into WrestleMania 12 from Arrowhead Pond, Anaheim. This was, to me, a big turning point in the way for WWF at the time, because a lot of things happened not long after it, which we'll get into. The show starts. Can't go without this. A pre-tape singles match happened for free fall before Billionaire Ted was as the Huckster, the Nacho Man, to Anoka Ted. This, of course, was Vince poking fun at Hogan and Savage, which eventually we'd see Hall and Nash or Razor and Diesel would involved in as well, or get treated well. I will say, though, the Huckster and the Nacho and Billionaire segments were kind of funny on Night Raw back in those days.
Oh, my God, yes. I mean, I feel like Shawn Michaels got his material from the vignettes when he played Hogan for that one SummerSlam. Well, let me tell you, brother, I feel like Shawn watched like every promo, every get about that to learn how to speak asshole.
Pretty much. All right. So we got on the main card, Invader, with Jim Cornette defeated Ahmed Johnson, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Yokozuna with Mr. Fuji in a 6-man tag. Had Yoko's team won, he would have gotten 5 minutes alone in the ring with Jim Cornette, but they didn't, so that didn't happen. Here was the infamous Hollywood Backlot Brawl. That brawl would take place throughout this entire pay-per-view for the most part. Roddy Piper beat Goldust in the Hollywood Backlot Brawl. Who could forget seeing that and seeing the O.J. Simpson White Ford involved in the whole. This was the first time we had a taste of the cinema type stuff that you got during the COVID era, if you want to be honest.
Oh, most definitely. Originally, this match was supposed to be Scott Hall, Razor Ramon versus Goldust for the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah.
But Scott went into rehab for his drug use, and they replaced him with Piper. It worked out good. This was taped 2 weeks before WrestleMania because Piper legitimately broke his hand while filming this match, and it was what it was. It was a thing, and WWE even had some other plans to have O.J. Simpson appear at WrestleMania, but it never happened.
Right.
I mean, Piper was such a good wrestler. I mean, I respect his work, and, he didn't really have to do this. Piper could have just retired and do what he always does, but Piper was a class act, and doing something with Dustin, I mean, hell, look at Dustin now. He's still wrestling, and, we lost Roddy a couple of years ago. I miss hearing Roddy Piper's voice because the man was a good talker.
Oh, yes, he was. One of the best promos in the history of wrestling.
Yep.
Stone Cold Steve Austin with the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase would defeat Savio Vega by TKO, technical knockout. Ultimate Warrior would return and beat Hunter Hearst Helmsley in 1 minute and 39 seconds. Sable was Triple H's manager at the time. Warrior shouldn't have beat Hunter Hearst Helmsley that quickly, but Hunter, I believe, was kind of in the doghouse already with the higher ups, and he'd get even worse in the doghouse not too long after WrestleMania, but it was what it was. Was nice to see Warrior back in the company, I guess, but still. The Undertaker with Paul Bearer would defeat Diesel in one of his earliest WrestleMania streak matches. I believe he was 7-0 at that point in time when he beat Diesel, if I remember right. And of course, the main event would be first ever in WWF history, an Iron Man match for the WWF Championship, as the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels with Jose Lothario would defeat the Hitman Bret Hart, and the boyhood dream would come true for the Heartbreak Kid in overtime.
Man, overtime. Yep.
Oh,
yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say something, and I want your opinion. I want to get your thoughts on what I'm going to say about this. Let's talk about the Iron Man match.
Yeah.
Hands down, two of the greatest in-ring performers doing a match that never happened in WWE, and putting on one of the greatest performance of it, and to go down with no score at the 1 hour mark shows how much heart and dedication that they put in it.
Right. No, I agree.
Still to this day, and you could say I'm wrong, I felt like they could have kept it as that and Bret retains the title. For Bret to retain the title and walk out because it said 60 minutes, it must be a winner. It didn't say 60 minutes plus sudden death. I just feel like they stretch it out too much because, first of all, Bret went on hiatus, and that's when you had this big ego trip with Shawn Michaels. And
yes,
was it a good match? Yes. I think they should have just left it at 60 minutes because how can you ask? I feel like that was a Vince call because Vince wanted Bret to leave, and he wanted to see if Shawn Michaels can handle the load.
Right. I agree with you on that for the most part. If they were going to go to 60, he should have had Shawn win in like the last second, get a 3 count right before the or something, instead of going into the overtime, because it would, like you said, it would have made a lot of sense for Bret just to take his title and leave, because the 60 minutes were up. And Bret, you could tell, was visibly upset. It seemed like after the 60 minutes were up, and they were trying to figure out what to do from there and decided to go with the overtime. To me, it almost felt like maybe that wasn't originally part of the plan, or Bret was just really selling that you're supposed to believe it wasn't part of the plan, or something along those lines at that point in time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other match, Diesel's last, one of Diesel's last WrestleManias, which was shocking. You know, so that was shocking, as that was his last WrestleMania until he came back around 18.
Yep. It's true.
And you forgot one thing about, that Warrior match.
Yeah.
That was also that was also the debut after a month after Uncensored, which is odd. Uncensored, you saw him in the match with Diamond Dallas Page when he was teaming up with the Diamond Doll.
Mm-hmm.
In his corner, we got the Wild Man Mark Merrow debuting after he had just left WCW.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they even show a picture of him there too. Man. All right. Like I said, it was kind of a turning point for WWF at that time. It really wasn't the, but it was kind of a turning of the corner, will, in a way, with having a new standard bearer in the form of Shawn Michaels, which we're going to go into a lot of Shawn Michaels talk when it comes to these pay-per-views here. Pay-per-views that we've got to talk about as we move forward in this series.
Yeah.
Next two shows were both in April from ECW, the 13th and the 20th. They had ECW Massacre on Queens Boulevard. Again, that night, JT Smith and Little Joe. That's why JT Smith is familiar, because he was part of the Full Blood Act. Defeated the Dudley Boys, Big Dick Dudley and Bo by DQ. That was Devon's. Actually, was one of their cornermen there. I think that was his first time in ECW. Yeah, that was his debut. Hack Myers beat Billy Black. The Eliminators beat Joel Hartgood and El Puerto Rican Nicano, however it's pronounced, to retain the tag titles. Raven defeated Damien 666 to retain the ECW World Championship. Damien 666 is somebody I mostly... You don't know who that is?
No.
I have to show you. Right there.
I heard the name, but I don't know who it is.
What's it?
Okay, I just see. Oh my God, okay. Because he had a different name in WCW.
Yeah, he was a prominent figure in... No, he went by Damien 666, or just Damien, one of the two. I think he might have changed.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
He was originally,
should have been part of
of course, over in Mexico.
That man should be a part of the New World Order. He already had black and white.
I know, right? But no, the Great Muta, I believe, was the only Mexican that was ever really part of the New World Order.
Yep, and Masa Chono.
Yeah, you're right. I was talking about him. Taz beat Chris Jericho by TKO. Taz had Bill Alfonso and Team Taz in his corner, while Jericho had Todd Gordon in his corner. Shoot Fight Rules match, whatever that is. Shane Douglas beat Act Rotten. Brian Lee. Wow. Would team Chains in WWE eventually later on. Would team with Bruise Brothers to defeat the Pitbulls and Tommy Dreamer in a 6-man tag match. Sabu beat Mikey Whipwreck, and in the main event, Gangstas defeated the Headhunters and the Sandman and Too Cold Scorpio in a triple threat match, 3-way tag team elimination match, rather, to determine the number one contenders for the tag titles.
Oh, so the Disciples of Apocalypse were in ECW.
Yeah, because the Bruise Brothers were part of the DOA too, weren't they? Ron and Don Harris.
Yeah.
They're just missing Crush. Interesting to know. That's probably why they eventually got put into the DOA, because of ECW being involved with WWE at that point in time. The next show was Hostile City Showdown. Yeah, good for you. I'm not. There we go. There we go. ECW Arena. Barely held many people in there. Only 1,000 people, a little over. Puerto Ricano defeated their Supernova to a no contest. Supernova, of course, Simon Dean, as many people would know him in WWE. Like Rip Rap, Billy Black with Damian King and Eddie Alexander. The Dudley Boys, the official Dudley Boys, wrestled the Pit contest in a 9-minute match. Taz beat Devin Storm by countout, aka Crowbar. Hex Rotten beat Little Guido with JT Smith. Too Cold Scorpio and the Sandman beat the Bruise Brothers. Brian Lee defeated Tommy Dreamer. Sabu beat Rob Van Dam. Wow. That probably was one of their first matches against each other. Raven defeated Shane Douglas to retain the ECW World Championship in the main event. So, the two things to mention really from that show, of course, Sabu and Rob Van Dam. I do recall they had a little bit of a rivalry against each other, but of course, when you think of those two in ECW, you more so think of their team that they had together and how they worked together as a tag team, so than enemy, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, Sabu and RVD, their rivalries were excellent because this is when Sabu was slowly coming back into the fold after that shitty run that he had in WCW, that basically he was doing hardcore stuff on there, and then Bischoff got rid of him. But the chemistry between Sabu and Rob Van Dam, man, I wish they would have kept them as a tag team because I think they could have won every gold in ECW.
Right. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe we'll get into it later. But weren't they ECW Tag Team Champions at one point?
They were.
I thought so. And the other match,
of course, they were tag team champions. Rob was the United, the television championship that looked like the Intercontinental title.
Yeah, it kind of did. And of course, the main event being Raven and Shane Douglas. They had quite the rivalry at one point, CW.
They absolutely did, and I feel like Raven's best work was in WCW with the Ravens rules and the flock, but his work at anywhere that Raven went, he made good work of it. Just not in WWF when they bought it over. He tried to do all that stuff, but Vince didn't like too much of a violence.
Yeah, I would say huge run as ECW champion as we're seeing here, Raven did. And he just always seemed to have one of the top premier spots in ECW. And then when you go to WCW, you didn't know really what to expect from Raven, but we got Raven's flock out of it. And I feel like that was one of probably the best storylines at the time that we had in WCW. I mean, they did have the rivalries with people like among other people, and I just felt like at times they had the best storyline on WCW programming, though, when you're trying to bring guys in and then seeing whether or not they join, or of course, when you talk Raven's flock and trying to get people to join, like the NWO would do later, at one point did try bringing DDP into the flock as well. And those two had quite the rivalry.
I mean, if you look at Raven's flock, you had some guys that Raven actually helped. I mean, look what he did with Billy Kidman. Look what he did with Billy Kidman, because Billy Kidman before was just an enhancement. He actually helped them. It's just sometimes I always felt like Billy Kidman needed a bath. I'm like, that motherfucker was always itching.
That's part of the whole gimmick, I'm sure, but still.
Yeah, and then Van Hammer was a part of it.
Yep.
And then my
Low-key.
favorite guy. Oh, so, yeah, he was. My favorite guy was John Studd. The guy that played the Yeti was a part of Raven's Rock.
He was, wasn't he?
I forgot what his
Yeah.
name was.
Yeah, I can't think of what I want my head either. We have to look it up later.
And then you had Stevie Richard and Perry Saturn. I mean,
Yes. Saturn and Raven
and then-
really had to rival the flock, too.
oh my God. And even Scotty Riggs.
After the American Male.
Hold on. The American males have not broken up yet.
Sure they have.
They just had a match Monday night with the Alpha Academy.
That's American made, not American male.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
All good. All right. So we move on. In Your House, Good Friends, Better Enemies. Omaha, Nebraska. This was quite a big show, really, when you talk about what happens after the show. Owen Hart and the British Bulldog would defeat Ahmed Johnson and Jake the Snake Roberts by submission. The Ultimate Warrior would defeat Goldust with Bodyguard and Marlena in an Intercontinental title match. Vader with James E. Cornette to defeat Razor Ramon. The Body Donnas with Sonny defeated the Godwins with Hillbilly Jim to retain the tag titles. In the main event of the show, they'd have 3 dark matches after. But the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, would defeat Diesel in an all-holds-barred match for the WWF Championship. Now, this night is important to WWE because of what would come after this show. In a live event, not too long after In Your House, I don't remember if it was like a week later or how long, would of course be the curse, it's now known. Shawn and, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was Shawn and Diesel had the steel cage match against each other again. And then after the match, Scott Hall, Sean Waltman, and Triple H would come out and give us the infamous curtain call afterwards, as Scott and Kevin were leaving.
Yeah, Sean Waltman wasn't there. He was in rehab. Oh,
yeah, that's right.
For, so the famous curtain call, live from Madison Square Garden in my hometown of New York.
Yep.
I was actually at that event when it happened. Man, that building shook that night. People didn't know what was going on. People didn't know what was going on because back then you didn't have the internet. That people could go on and know what's going on. That Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, Razor and Diesel was leaving the company to join WCW. I mean, because you got 2 heels and you got 2 faces going in the ring. I mean, that never happens.
Right.
I mean, that is still to this day, that is one of the major talking points of professional wrestling, how they broke the 4th wall. That
The 4th wall, yeah.
you brought fans to the back, which back then was very sacred.
Right. And Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, would be the one that would have to, if you will, for breaking that. breaking the fourth wall, because originally Triple H was supposed to win the 1996 King of the Ring. However, that would get pushed back a year because of the whole curtain call, and we'd get the birth of Stone Cold Steve Austin, which we'll get into a little bit here in a few minutes. But a lot of repercussion. Triple H ended up having to face from the curtain call because Nash would have left the company, and you can't really give it and reprimandum to your WWF champion.
I always felt like it was a shitty situation. I always felt like it was a shitty situation, but why would you want to mess up a guy that just won the World Wrestling Federation title and reprimand him for it? And it happened, but in a good way. Yeah, did it suck that Hunter got the royal shaft, but it also helped get the birth of Austin 316. You know, so good and bad,
Right.
It worked out in the long run for both of them.
Yes, it did. That's the main thing that you can remember from that show, that in your house. Oh, go ahead.
Speaking of that match with Shawn and Kevin, that's when, I don't know, have you ever watched that match?
The in your house match or the house show match?
The in your house match, Good Friends, Better Enemies. Have you seen that match?
It's been a long time, but yeah, I've seen it. I have seen it before.
When Kevin took off Killer Kowalski, Mad Dog with Shawn's leg.
Oh yeah, yep, I remember that. Forgot that was part of that match, but
Oh, it's a show fight.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm like, oh shit, he took off his leg. What the fuck? You know.
Move on. You got ECW Matter of Respect. Damian Kane and Devon Storm. Devon Storm, I mean. Sorry, not Devon. With Lady Alexandria, defeated the Dudley Boys. I defeated Axel Rotten and Hack Myers. Raven beat Pitbull number 2 in the Sandman in a three-way dance to retain the ECW Championship. Taz defeated Beef Wellington. Shane Alexander Bauer. Taz Mission. Chris Jericho, Mikey Whipwreck, Shane Douglas beat Too Cold Scorpio to win the ECW television title. Rob Van Dam would defeat Sabu in a respect match. In the main event, Tommy Dreamer and the Gangstas defeated Brian Lee and the Eliminators by pinfall in a 6-man tag. Interesting. What?
Holy shit. What a name, Paul. Come on.
Yeah. Right? Gotta come up with something.
What? Did he just go to dinner with Tommy Dreamer and say, oh, we got to give this name to this new kid? Yes, I'd like to order a Beef Wellington. Oh my God, that's just genius. Let's just give him Beef Wellington. It's going to make him a major star. What the fuck, Paul?
Right? Who knows? All right, we'll move on from that. WCW Slamboree from Baton Rouge, Louisiana's Riverside Central. The American Males on the pre-show are part of the main event. We defeat the Sharks with Jimmy Hart. So this year we're talking the American Males anyway. Oh, this Max was Max Muscle in WWF at the time. Oh, interesting to know. Of course, the Shark was Penta. Oh. The main show. Oh, this was Lead Lottery. Road Warrior and Booker T wrestled Road Warrior Hawk and Lex Luger to a double countout. The Public Enemy actually managed to be a tag team together in Lethal Ladder, surprisingly. They would defeat Chris Benoit and the Taskmaster with Jimmy. No surprise, since Benoit and the Taskmaster hated each other. God rest Kevin Sullivan's soul, by the way. Rick Steiner and the Booty Babe defeated Sergeant Craig Pitbull Pittman and Scott Steiner. BK Wall Street and Hacksaw Jim Duggan defeated the Blue Bloods, Lord Stephen Regal and Squire David Taylor. Dirty Dick Slater and Earl Robert Eaton with Robert Parker defeated the Disco Inferno and Alex Reed. Oh my God. Those two. Diamond Dallas Page and the Barbarian defeated Meng and Hugh Morris. Fire and Ice, Scott Norton and Ice Train defeated Big Bubba Rogers and Stevie Ray. And in the final first round Lethal Lottery tag team match, Ric Flair and the Macho Man Randy Savage with Woman and Elizabeth defeated Arn Anderson and Eddie Guerrero. Savage and Flair managed to pick up a win, knowing that those two hated each other. Arn and Eddie should have been able to get along better than that. Dean Malenko with Brad Armstrong to retain the Cruiserweight title. How was Brad Armstrong able to get into a Cruiserweight title match? Yeah, me. Lethal Lottery next round. Dick Slater and Earl Robert Eaton defeated VK Wall Street and Jim Duggan, who were also rivalries at that time. Public Enemy beat Ric Flair and Randy Savage. No shocker there, by forfeit. As Savage probably went team with Flair again, I'd imagine. Barbarian would defeat Rick Steiner and the Booty Man. Conan would defeat Jushin Thunder Liger to retain the U.S. heavyweight title. And then, of course, out of Lethal Lottery, you get the Battle Bowl match where the winners of the semifinals, or the third round, whatever you want to call it, would face each other in a battle royal type situation to determine the number one contender for the WWE Championship, which DP won by last eliminating the Barbarian. Not only did he get that title match, but he would get a Battle Bowl ring, which would come into become a factor in a match later on that we'll get into. The main event saw the Giant defeat Sting with Black Luger to retain the WC. So, yeah, 7 men were in that battle royal. Okay.
Okay, so here's the one thing about Battle Bowl. Yes, did Diamond Dallas Page win the match? Absolutely. He won his Battle Bowl ring. Diamond Dallas Page never got a World Heavyweight title shot.
That's
No.
I wonder if it says why in here.
Apparently, towards the end of that match, a couple of weeks later, they dropped it.
So the title shot was revoked the next night on Nitro after footage shown that Page was thrown over the top rope by the Barbarian and won.
So that technically the Barbarian should be the Battle Bowl ring champion?
It sounds that way. Interesting.
WCW.
Yep.
WCW, where the shit don't play.
Right? Where things don't make sense. Oh. Except for, no. I feel like they'd get better eventually later. But we'll get into that more. Move on. I'm going to have to wait. I'm going to people right now. Next up, we got. So this is interesting because of what happened here. In Your House, Beware of Dog would be next on our panel to talk about. This actually was a 2-night event, May 26th and May 28th, from Florence, South Carolina, and North Charleston, South Carolina. Interesting that it took 2 nights.
I can tell you what happened.
Oh,
Okay, so the reason what happened is because it was a tornado warning, and it knocked out the power to the arena. So you only
Yeah, I
saw
was gonna
half
say-
of the matches.
yeah. So what happened, like you just said, they would have all those matches, or 3 of them to be precise. So on the first show, really, and the Broken Guns beating the Godwins to win the tag team titles. And then they got a D for the dark match because when the power was out, I believe, for the show at their points. Bob Holly beat Isaac Yankum in the dark. Mark Mero was able to defeat Hunter Hearst Helmsley, which would air. Savio Vega in the dark would defeat Stone Cold Steve Austin in a Caribbean match. Yokozuna Vader in the dark. It's 4 matches as Goldust with Marlena would defeat the Undertaker match to retain the Intercontinental Championship. And this one would really be the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels with Jose Lothario competing against the British Bulldog with Clarence Diana Smith and Owen Hart in a match that would end in a no contest for the WWE Championship or WWF Championship. Yes, this was early on in his reign as WWF Champion, but between either Beware of Dog, I believe the next In Your House as well in '96. I could be wrong, or maybe it was the King of the Ring. I think it was King of the Ring. But one of those two, I felt like Shawn should have dropped the WWF Championship to the Boy. Personally.
You want my opinion? I'm going to tell you my opinion. I
Yeah.
felt like at this pay-per-view, that stupid ending that they had, that you could see clearly Shawn Michaels' shoulder was not up. To me, I felt like on this night at Beware of Dogs, the British Bulldog should have been called the World Wrestling Federation Champion. I understand Shawn only had a belt for a month, but Shawn clearly couldn't handle. Yeah, he couldn't handle the pressure because he didn't have his support with him.
Right.
And
Hall and
folks,
Nash
when I
both
say
left.
support, yep, Hall and Nash left, and it was only just Hunter. And they basically, Hunter had to babysit Shawn. I felt like Shawn's reign as World Wrestling Federation Champion, they weren't that great.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that first reign was like Shawn had too many demons, and a match with the British Bulldog should have came off clean, but it looked sloppy.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, back in '96, I was at 10. I was a huge Shawn Michaels fan, so I was happy to see Shawn as the World Wrestling Federation champion. Yeah. But I mean, looking at it now as an adult, it's like, man, Davey Boy deserved better. Shawn, knowing now what we know, he actually was going through at that time, dropped the title, and we should have gotten a good run from Davey Boy or even Vader, for that matter, that we'll get into later.
Yeah, but you know, wrestling, man, it's always what's the hot ticket, and the hot ticket back then was the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
That is true. And in the dark, they have beat Jerry Lawler after Owen, and then for Beware of Dog 2, 3 matches only on that card that you actually got to see that were Savio Vega beat Stone Cold in strap match. Since Vega won, Ted DiBiase was the WWF. Had Austin won, Savio would have become Ted DiBiase's chauffeur. So this is the end of the $1 Million Man in WWE or WWF at the time, which would lead to, of course, Ted jumping ship over to WCW eventually. And then Vader would actually beat Yokozuna on this version instead of winning in the first version, and thus would defeat The Undertaker again in a casket match to retain the Intercontinental Championship. I understand they didn't want Goldust to the championship, but Goldust should have beaten The Undertaker in a casket match either, for that matter.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I always say about The Undertaker's career. He's one of the guys that have never won the Intercontinental title. He has won the WWF. He has won the World title and the Tag Team titles. It's a shame that he never won the Intercontinental title, so he could call himself a Triple Crown.
Right. And of course, Taker held. I'm hoping you can hear me because it says, oops, connection lost, reconnecting, so I don't know.
No, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Just making sure. Of course, Undertaker's held the title there was in WWE. I mean, he was Hardcore Champion, Tag Team Champion, WWF Champion, but yeah, I agree with you. It would have been nice if he would have been an Intercontinental Champion. And again, like I said, he should have never lost to Goldust in his cash. All right. So what's next on the docket? ECW Fight the Power. It was a night in Flux. Oh, in the ECW arena, Devin Storm beat out Puerto Rico. RVD beat Mikey Whipwreck. The FBI defeated the Dudleys by DQ with the Taz mission and shoot fight. Pitbulls and Tommy Dreamer beat Brian Lee and the Bruise Brothers in a flawless contest.
Hello, folks. How are you? Tony's a little frozen right now, so he is at ECW's Fight the Power, 1996. So let's go to that. Sorry, I don't have my ECW agenda for that one. So let me get to that one, ladies and gentlemen, so I could tell you the event of the 1996 Fight the Power. So give me a moment, people. I am so sorry for this. We are having a little technical issue, but we will get back to you in a minute with this. Okay. ECW Fight the Power, like he said, was at in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at the ECW Arena. Attendance was 1,025. The event was Devin Storm and with the Demon King and Lady defeated. Rob Van Dam defeated Mikey Whipwreck. The full blood of the times right here. How you doing? The Little Guido, JT Little Guido, and defeated the Dudley Boys. Taz defeated Jace Holland. The Pitbulls defeated Tommy Dreamer and the Blue Brothers. Raven defeated Pitbull number 2 to retain the ECW World Heavyweight title. This defeated Steven Richard with the Blue Mean. for the ECW World Television Championship. The champs, the franchise, Shane Douglas defeated El Puerto Rico by pinfall. Then Shane Douglas defeated Dan E. Allen by pinfall. Then Shane Douglas defeated Devin Storm. Then he defeated Mikey Whipwreck. So Shane Douglas had a shitload of matches that night. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches in one full thing. And then Pitbull, number 2. Pitbull, number 2, defeated Shane Douglas for the World Television title. And then the Eliminator defeated the Gangsters to retain the ECW Tag Team titles. Ladies and gentlemen, and I know Tony's back, how the fuck did Shane Douglas have 5 matches in one fucking card?
Yeah, I don't know how Shane Douglas had 5 matches in one night. That is crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what you call Paul Heyman trying to figure out a card, or half of his guys overdosed.
Right? It's crazy.
I have a feeling
Sorry,
the reason
technical
why
difficulties is happens.
I feel like Paul Heyman was just trying to fill out a card, because by then Chris Jericho was gone, Rey Mysterio, all the luchadors that he brought in from Mexico all went to WCW to start their cruiserweight division.
Yeah, that is true. That probably did play a huge factor in it. But still, kudos to Shane Douglas for wrestling 5 matches in one night, but it had to catch up with you eventually to lose the title, especially when the title was online every time.
I swear to God, that guy must have got a steak dinner from Paul Heyman. Thank you for
ECW
covering
television
5
champion.
matches.
Anyway, that's okay. So on the screen, we're gonna hope that works out, but I'm gonna just pop them up on my phone and read them off that way.
Most definitely, but let's
See
make
if that
it more
helps out with my connection. Next on the docket. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just doing it because you moved yourself over. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm moving.
All right. Up next, we got.
Okay, we're back. All right, now I think we just did WWF. Let's see who was on the card. Okay, now we're gonna go back, ladies and gentlemen, because I think the next one should be a WWE pay-per-view. Okay, so let's see. All right, let's see which one we're gonna do. I'm gonna do about the King of the Ring. I'm gonna do about the King of the Ring. So let's go to the King of the Ring, 1996. As you know, that was WWE's, and I'll tell you where it is in a moment. Please give me 3rd, 1996. From Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at the MCCA Arena. Attendance on that night was 8,762. To be honest, it's to win is hell. Okay, so I don't know what the fuck that meant, but all right, let's work with that. Um.
You actually skipped the
Oh, okay. So
pay-per-view.
yeah, my bad. Oh shit. Okay. All right. Let's go back to American Bash. I was like, I don't know where we left off.
Great American Bash. We'll get into the King of the Ring. Just give me a minute to get there.
No, it's all right. I was like,
don't know
oh
why.
shit, I forgot. I was like, oh shit, I forgot where I was.
That's okay. So we'll jump into the Great American. Then we'll get back to King of the Ring after this and an ECW show. Baltimore, Maryland's Baltimore Arena. Steiner Brothers defeated Fire and Ice. That had to have been just that we'll talk about later. Next week's show. Conan beat Elgato to retain. Conan had a pretty decent. Tells me reconnecting again. So if you lose me, it happens. I don't have anything else open on my page, so I don't know why. Decent run as U.S. champion. And then I froze up again.
I see you. Well, I hear you, but I don't see you.
Well, as long as you're hearing me, nothing else. I see on YouTube.
Yeah, I see.
If you can hear me, that's good.
Yeah, I see.
Oh, there it goes. All right. So Diamond Dallas Page beat Marcus Alexander. Dean Malenko beat Rangers Away Championship. Those two always had classic matches against each other.
Oh, yeah.
John Tenta, Jimmy Hart. Interesting because they'd have a rematch eventually. Chris Benoit beat Kevin Sullivan with Jimmy Sting. Beat Lord Steven Regal with Deathlock. The Four Horsemen's Double A, Arn Anderson, and the Nature Boy Ric Flair with Woman Miss Elizabeth and Bobby the Brain Heenan would defeat Mean Green Kevin Green and Steve Mago McMichael, along with Randy Savage, Deborah, and Tara Green in their corner. Of course, that would be when Mongo would turn on Kevin Green and join the Horsemen officially. In the main event, the Giant with Jimmy Hart would defeat Lex Luger to retain the WCW World Heavyweight Championship.
Okay, so you want my opinion about this Great American Bash? I'm going to tell you. Why the hell a prominent group before the dawn of the New World Order? You have some top athletes in this group. You got the 16th time World Heavyweight Champion and Ric Flair. You got the Enforcer, Double A, Arn Anderson. You got that other guy who is the
Yes. Yep.
You have that guy who were all great wrestlers. And then you go with one of the greatest linebackers of the L.
Yep.
Steve, I'm going into the Hall of Fame. What the Michael? I know he's best. But Steve Michael wrestled like, how can I compare it to him? He wrestled like Butterbean.
Well, yeah, he was kind of a bad wrestler, so I won't say much else about it. It was a weird addition to the Horsemen too. So
I understand it's because
they could have picked somebody.
They had to replace Brian Pillman. But if you look at that roster, you can find an upcoming. And I always felt like if Ric Flair and Eddie the Horseman had another balls, why would you not put Chris Jericho into the Horseman?
Right? I think Jericho would have benefited from being a member of the Horsemen back then. Being under the learning.
Because if you look at if Chris Jericho in the Horseman with one of the guys he with in the Heart Dungeon.
Right. That would have been an impressive team, that's for sure. Faction.
And I don't mention him because what he did, but what would have been if Jericho and that other person would have won the WCW World Tag Team titles?
Man. They would have been unstoppable.
Power and speed on that team, that would have been a hell of a team. But no, we get Steve, Michael, Deborah. What the fuck?
Right? You notice, I was going to bring this up. You notice how after that, Hogan and Savage won the cage match? Hogan wasn't on any of these pay-per-views after that, up until, well, we'll get into it, but you know.
Oh yeah.
I think he was busy. He was busy out recording Thunder in Paradise, maybe.
Let me see when it ends. I've got when it ends.
He was recording
Thunder in Paradise. Oh, the great Thunder in Paradise. It aired from March 25th to November 27th of 94.
Oh, so it wasn't that. He was busy out making some movie or something, I'm sure, anyway.
His movies. That was 96, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The 3 movies Hulk Hogan was doing in 1996. Oh, this is a doozy. He was doing Spy Hard as Steel, the other tag team member.
Uh-huh.
Then the Secret Agent Club as Ray Trace. And then my favorite and yours, Tony, Santa with Muscles.
Alrighty. I honestly don't know that I've seen any of those 3 movies, to be perfectly honest.
Oh. Wait till we get to 98. McCain's Island and 3 Ninjas at High Noon at Mega Mountain.
I have seen that movie. Forgot about that.
And then and this one. Oh my God, I'm gonna really get blown up. The Ultimate Weapon. And then in 99, the Muppets from Space. Yeah, it fits the douchebag.
Right?
And then he was in Little Hercules. Oh, you're kidding me. Hulk Hogan in 2009 was in Little Hercules as Zeus.
Oh. I shouldn't be surprised, but wow.
And then movies in 1996, oh my God, let's all run to the beach. Because in 1996, he did Baywatch, Bash at the Beach.
That is surprising that it was called that, but
Oh my God. Hulk
They had the
Hogan.
wrong
Oh, muscles. Shit.
All right. So now shall we move on?
Oh, we forgot one thing about Bash at the Beach in '96.
We
The
didn't do Bash at the Beach yet.
debut of the I'm sorry. Great American Bash. The Outsiders get interviewed by Eric Bischoff.
Yep. Not only did they get, but they also put Eric Bischoff through a table. Powerbomb off the rope through the table by Kevin. Made their official pay-per-view debut because Hall, of course, showed up on Nitro a few weeks before, and Nash did, I think, the Monday before Great American Bash, or maybe 2 weeks before the Great American Bash, one or the other.
No, it was a week before the Bash.
Yeah. There we go. Get to the King of the Ring. ECW had a show that they recorded the night before called Hardcore Heaven. Shane Douglas would defeat Mikey Whipwreck to start the show. The FBI would, with Salvatore Bellomo, would defeat the Dudleys by disqualification. Taz beat Paul with the Taz mission. Raven defeated Terry Bam Bam Gordy to retain the ECW World Championship. Raven had, of course, Stevie Richards, Supernova, and the Blue Meanie in his corner. I didn't realize Terry Gordy was in ECW at a point, but the Eliminators wrestled the Gangsters to a no contest with the tag titles on the line. Before the Eliminators paid double duty as they also brothers to a no contest. Axel Rotten and Hack Myers Gangsta Party, Matty Smalls and Sammy the Silk to a no contest. Right? Chris Jericho defeated Pitbull number 2 with Francine to win the television title. Tommy Dreamer with Bila McGillicuddy and Kimona Wanalea defeated Brian Lee, not Brian Pillman, in a weapons match. And then in the main event, Sabu defeated Rob Van Dam in a 20-minute match.
Wow.
So like I said, Sabu and Rob Van Dam had their rivalry against each other, but I still felt like they were always better, more so than as enemies.
Oh no, I totally agree with you. And let's give it up to the Pitbulls and the and Shane Douglas. Holy shit! In '96, they were workhorses, man.
They were too. All right, and they definitely showed it. Can't believe they had 3 matches in a row there and in a no contest, but it is what it is. Now into the King of the Ring that you were bringing up in the Mecca Arena in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You got on the free-for-all, the Body Donnas defeated the New Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Leif Cassidy. Why don't you indulge the people, Eddie? Who was Leif Cassidy? Better known as.
Well, my name is Eddie Jankowski, and I am a god. But people don't know about Leif Cassidy. It was a young Al Snow. Al Snow was a babyface wrestler he got his original start in James E. Cornette Smoky Mountain Wrestling, where he used to tag team with a guy that people should know by now, WWE Hall of Famer. But in Smoking Wrestling, he was called the Unabomber.
Yes. Maybe weren't they or something like that?
Yep. And when Glenn Jacobs, who is now mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee, got called up to the WWE, he became his gimmick that a wrestler can have. Isaac Yankum DS.
Yes.
And I'm going to give her a shout out, and I hope somebody lets us see this. At least her name is better, because you can say Baker D.
D. Yes, it's true. The Body Donnas, of course, didn't have Sonny as their manager then anymore. Either they had.
Yay.
We're not even going to talk about Cloudy though. Defeat Aldo Montoya. The main card. There's a lot to talk about when we talk about the ring. We have though, so we're not going to go too much indulgent. Of course, when we did our King of the Ring show. Stone Cold beat Mark Merrow in the semifinals. Jake Roberts beat Vader with Jim Cornette by disqualification in the semifinals. Smoking Guns with Sonny beat the Godwins to retain the tag titles. Warrior beat Lawler. Mankind beat The Undertaker with Paul Bearer by technical submission. Ahmed Johnson beat Goldust. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeated Jake Roberts in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament. And of course, Shawn Michaels beat the Book to retain the WWF Championship with Mr. Forster. Again, as I said earlier, either in your house or here at King of the Ring, Bulldog should have went over. But as you said, Shawn was a hot ticket item really at that point in time. So, and Shawn wanted to keep the title, and Vince wasn't going to take it off of his golden boy.
Yeah, and like we both said before, and maybe we should do something like profile the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith of his career. The man was a man. That man was so powerful, but he never got to the promised land of
Right.
being World Wrestling Federation champion. I mean, he had a great run with the Dynamite Kid as the British Bulldogs. He had a great thing with his brother-in-law Owen. You know, when they were on the tag team titles, he was a good. He really didn't have a run with the Intercontinental title because he got suspended right after that with drugs, with suspended for taking drugs.
Right.
I mean, Bulldog career will always go down as, and I know I don't feel this way, but maybe some people didn't. I feel like some people would think that his career was a letdown because he never won the big one.
I wouldn't say it was a letdown, but it was a letdown by creative never to book him as world champion.
No. I feel like Vince, you know, give him a shot. See how he would. I mean, I know Vince was going through this phase that he wanted guys he can trust. I mean, Shawn Michaels had a lot of influence in his match, in his decision that if he didn't want nothing, he would have walked out of. And who knows what happened if Shawn didn't get his way? Would Shawn go to WCW?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a good time, but that was another story. But we all know what happened at 96. King of the Ring, the birth of Austin 316. That's the only thing you got to say about it. Look what his career is.
Exactly. That gave us the birth of Austin 316, and almost, in a way, came to me the start of the Attitude Era for the most part. The beginning, the early stages of it, anyways. I know it didn't really kick off until Austin McMahon, but
I agree with you. I felt like 1996, everybody had a chip on their shoulder. You know, I think right after the 90 in the ring, you saw the birth of the Attitude Era. I think the Attitude Era started coming into play. Watch the 96 Survivor Series from Madison Square Garden. That show, them last matches with Brett in Austin and Sid and Shawn, that was Attitude Era matches. But we'll get to that.
yeah,
down,
we'll get
down
more
the
into
road.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was. I agree. It was the start of the prelude to the Attitude Era.
Right. All right. So from there we go on to another bash. This time, WCW Bash at the Beach 1996. The biggest Bash at the Beach, as you could say. It's the only Bash at the Beach I feel like people really remember for the most part because of that shirt that you're wearing had a lot to do with it. And we'll get into that here in a moment. But let's go over the rest of the card first. The show kicked off with Psychosis going one-on-one with Rey Mysterio Jr. And it's outstanding match between two guys that were newer to the company, of course. The Cruiserweight division was newer to the company, so it had been going for a couple months, but Rey was brand new. He was 21 years old. He mentioned that quite often during this match and his match at the show we'll be talking about next week. But, I mean, just to look back and see Rey Mysterio, the things that he did at 21 in WCW, and knowing now, all these years later, he's still competing at pretty much the top level or close to it in WWE when he's on the show anyway. And to see that his son's on there now too, it's incredible.
Oh, so you're talking about Playboy Donnie, Dirty Dom.
I blame the rain.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Playboy Dirty Dom.
Still having more issues there. Not catching everything you're saying.
All right. Yeah, you're talking about Playboy Dirty Dom. Oh, there we go. All right, Bash at the Beach, 1996. The infamous The Outsiders invade WCW. And here we go back again. I just got to 96, and there we go.
I know, right?
Yeah, like you were saying about Ray. I mean, look at him now at almost the age of 50, and the man is still going strong. I mean, you also got to talk about his son, Playboy Dirty Dom. I mean, having two hot ladies fight over him. God bless the guy. Can you hear me okay? His son, Playboy Dirty Dom. I mean, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we're having some technical difficulties with Tony's side of things, but yeah, me and Tony were talking about Rey Mysterio, one of the greatest luchadors of all time, going up against Psychosis. Psychosis, man, he was a different cat, and I know that Psychosis and Rey Mysterio had a match in ECW before they came to WCW. Let's talk about the Cruiserweight, and then we'll get with Tony when he comes back. The Cruiserweight division in WCW was excellent. I mean, that was the match that started up the show. I mean, look at how many great matches we had with the cruiserweight division. We got to talk about Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. My God, that match at Halloween Havoc, which they had, and that was really good. And then you had Juventud Guerrera. You had Rey Mysterio. You had the Iceman, Dean Malenko. You had the Learning Tree, or what he used to call himself back then, Lionheart Chris Jericho. I mean, you had the LWO, the Latino World Order. You had Chavito, Chavo Guerrero. I mean, you had some great cruiserweights that were in that organization there. I always felt like some of the cruiserweights could have been world champions. But in WCW, if you weren't the top guys like Hogan, Savage, Flair, you never really got a shot. I mean, if you look at Eddie Guerrero, I think he only had a couple of matches, a couple of United States title. And Eddie lost the belt to Ric Flair at one point, I think on a Nitro or something. I always felt like the Eric Bischoff wanted to be one of the group, Are you good?
Yeah, for now. We'll see how long.
Okay.
But yeah, I was listening to you. Good points on the cruiserweight division.
Hey, I'm trying my best when it goes in and out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I blame the weather outside, the rain. I don't know what else to blame. So
yeah,
but crazy. So you talk about the cruiserweight, the standing way to start the shows. WWE at a time when they brought the cruiserweight title in for a while too. Something that we times, but it's nice to have. That's in there. Okay, just making sure nobody else said anything. The next match after Rey and Psychosis, a different style. You go from two small guys, two cruiserweights, to going at it. As we had the Carson City Silver Dollar match, where they had a bag of silver dollars taped up high above the ring, and you have Big Bubba Rogers with Jimmy Hart. And Big Bubba Rogers, for anybody who doesn't know, was the big boss man, Ray Traylor. Going up against John Tenta, who many people knew as Earthquake. And the announcers during the match referenced him as Earthquake for the most part, saying he wasn't a natural disaster or something. He would eventually.
Yeah.
He was eventually. But this match was woof. It was hard to watch when I was watching it last week. But you could tell these two weren't the greatest against each other, I guess you could say, but you knew that neither one of them were going to climb up that pole, because that pole was way too high up for one thing. And for another thing, just to see those two big guys try to climb it, it was attached by bungee cords to the turnbuckle post. Like I said, they even had it raised higher than the turnbuckles. Jimmy Hart, bless his soul, had to actually shimmy up that pole and grab the. Of course, he comes down and is met by John Tenta being behind him, pushes him, and he's holding on for dear life, trying not to fall off the pole. As John Tenta would then use the bag to smack Big Bubba with it and pick up the 1, 2, 3, and then dump the silver dollars all over Big Bubba. What was WCW thinking, putting a pole like that and having those two big guys, thinking they were going to be able to climb up it to get to that bag?
Okay. First of all, this was the preview. This is when we know WCW was going down a road of yeah, let's put silver dollars on a pole for two giants, and then back in 1999, we'll just use a bottle of Viagra. So hey, we're gonna hit it. We're gonna hit it really well with this one.
Well, not even just that, but you can't forget, of course, the infamous Judy Bagwell on a pole match as well.
Oh my! Oh, who can forget that? May she rest in peace, Buff Bagwell's mother.
Right?
For the love of God! I mean, I felt bad for not mostly boss Big Bubba Rogers because he used that name when he was in NWA. You know, I didn't feel bad for him because he wasn't that heavy. But try to put John Tenta on the top rope and see if that motherfucker would, sorry to say this, but I don't think John Tenta will beat. I think if John Tenta went up on a rope, that whole ring would collapse.
Well, he tried. He got up to the middle rope. I don't think he ever really got to the top rope to shimmy up the pole, but
you could have had Mr. Fuji go up there and get it, and it would have been simple.
Right? All right. So from the Carson City Silver Dollar match to a taped fist match, Duggan and Diamond Dallas Page. This rivalry was all over the Battle Bowl ring. DDP would win this, would get dacked by Hacksaw, taped fist that supposedly knocked him out just because it was nuts. The Nasty Boys beat Public Enemy in a double dog collar match where all four guys were wearing dog collars. Boards, they used everything they could pretty much in that double dog collar match. Tables, there was even a table that would not break. No matter what they did to it wouldn't until after the match. Once the match was over and they tried putting somebody lightly through it, they broke. It's like, really? That table was the biggest about at that point in the night.
I know.
From those three messes of matches, we'd get a pretty decent matches. You got the Disco Inferno competing against Dean Malenko for the Cruiserweight Championship. Disco would hit his swinging neckbreaker at one point and then start doing his dance moves. And Bobby Heenan on commentary says, "No, this is where you need to go for the pin. You need to have a manager that can keep you in check. You'd be Cruiserweight champion by now." Which was a good point, because Disco probably would have been Cruiserweight champion if he would have went into a cover, but yeah, you gotta love Bobby.
I gotta ask you about the Cruiserweight title on WCW. What the hell was the weight limit? Because I feel like there's no way Disco Inferno should even be in that match.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying about Brad Armstrong being in the match, the pay-per-view before, or two pay-per-views before. I don't know that they really technically had a limit. They might have been more like the X Division and TNA that has now. No, but I think they just pretty much went with the smaller guys were in it for the most part. I won't swear to it. You go from that Cruiserweight title match that was pretty decent to a stinker as Joe Gomez got beat by Steve Mongo McMichael with a tombstone because he used for his finisher. It was nowhere near as good as what Kane or Undertaker, either one, used. And then from there, I hate to say it, but you go to another clunker for the most part. K-Dog, Conan, drops the United States Championship to Ric Flair, as Woman and Miss Elizabeth both would get heavily involved in the match. Woman especially. And then you got the Giant and the Taskmaster beating Double A Arn Anderson and the Rabid Wolverine. Where if Arn and Chris would have won, then the Horsemen would have gotten a world title match on Nitro the next night. But the Giant managed to win all that, and then we get, of course, to the main event. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, who all throughout the night were speculations of who their mystery partner is going to be for this 6-man tag match. Mean Gene even at one point says he could the voice he heard kind of sounded familiar, but it was muffled, so he couldn't really put a name to the voice. But it sounded familiar to him. He just couldn't quite figure out who it was. But Hall and Nash come out. There's no partner to be seen. Michael Buffer on doing his ring announce. Sorry, there's no partner to be announced. It's just Hall and Nash. It's going to be a handicap match instead. They go up against Lex Luger, Sting, and Randy Savage in the match that was built takeover match, or I can't remember the exact name of it, but
the hostile takeover.
Hostile takeover. Yes. So we get early on in the match, there's a brawl between the 5 guys. Goes for a stinger splash on Kevin Nash, I do believe. But Lex Luger's right there too, and Luger gets hit with it as well. And Luger somehow managed to collide heads with Nash, and I think hit his head on the ring post too, supposedly. And knocked Luger out to the point that he had to be stretchered out of the arena. And at least was what the storyline was. So it became a tag team match. And Savage did what they could against the Outsiders. It was a pretty lengthy match. We get to the end of the match, and all of a sudden, this way is the immortal douchebag Hulk Hogan. And how I mentioned, Hogan wasn't a part of any of the pay-per-views between him and Savage winning the cage match to here. The announcers never say nothing about Hogan missing these shows during the pay-per-view. And I get the oops here again, so if you lose me, you'll know why. But tells me it's reconnected.
Okay, so what Tony was saying, that the match, the hostile takeover match with the Outsiders and their mystery partner going against Sting, Luger, and Savage. Yes, it was the biggest talk of wrestling that year. Who was going to be the third man for the Outsiders? And when Luger went down and Sting did a stinger splash, everybody was like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then, towards the end, when Savage low-blowed Nash, the guiding light comes out. And it's the immortal scumbag, Hulk Hogan. And shocked. Tony Schiavone was shocked. Dusty Rhodes was shocked. Bobby Heenan ruined the surprise.
Bobby Heenan says, but whose side is he on?
Yeah. And what do you mean, what side is he on? And it's like, I'm looking like, and then Hogan ripped off his shirt, goes to the side ring post, and drops down the leg drop that was supposed to be meant for the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6, and hit it on Savage.
Yep.
And on that day in 1996, and great Bash at the Beach, the wrestling world turned upside down when the beloved Hulk Hogan turned to the dark side and formed the New World Order with Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and he became Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
Yes, he did. And I mean, you mentioned he hit the one leg drop. He would then not one more, but would deliver 2 more leg drops to Savage. Cover him. Scott Hall would count the 1, 2, 3. The match actually was officially called a no contest because Hall wasn't a referee, but still. But then afterwards, Mean Gene comes in the ring to do the commentary or to do the interview with the New World Order. Who would have ever thought you would ever see at that point in time the crowd throwing crap at Hulk Hogan?
You remember when I mentioned WrestleMania 6.
Yeah.
Hogan has stated in numerous, and that was 1990. Hogan wanted to turn heel after WrestleMania 6.
Man.
You all right? Nobody knew that Hogan wanted to turn after WrestleMania 6 and become a heel. Yeah, after WrestleMania 6, Hogan wanted to do this Hollywood persona. No, because he still wanted him to be the fun-loving guy. And then go 6 years later, Hogan finally jumped it and became Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Again, he's having his little tap. I'm going to say this. Hulk Hogan wanted to do this after wrestling lost Confederation Championship to the Ultimate Warrior. He wanted to have a heel run, but no, you will ruin your thing because Hogan was starting to get booed after WrestleMania 6. He was still getting cheered a little bit, but he just wanted to do something. My opinion about when Hogan turned in 96 and WCW Bash at the Beach, it actually helped his career because Hulk Hogan's career would have been like shit if he didn't turn because people didn't believe in that. Say your prayers, take your vitamins, but believe in yourself and all that good shit. You know, when he turned heel, I felt like, yeah, I had to embrace it. I actually didn't tell anybody this because, you know, hi. Okay. Hogan did the smart thing about turning because without his turn, I think Hulkamania would have died a slow death. I mean, if you look at that promo, ladies and gentlemen, Hulk Hogan talked about how he created a monster up in New York. And when he made them a lot of money, he went here to WCW. And he made Bischoff a lot of money. And if it wasn't for him, Bischoff would still sell meat out of his back of his car. I mean, I felt like it was a good promo. And just Hogan slipped up a little bit. It was called the New World Order, not the New World Organization. You know, Hogan wasn't really that good on talking. I mean, but it helped. He really put over two guys that were coming back to WCW, and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, because the last time that they were there, they were called Oz, the Diamond Stud, Vinny Vegas. I mean fuck the Diamond Stud. I mean, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash had some shitty gimmicks when they were there the first time, and it never worked out. I think when they came back in after being Razor and Diesel, it helped them.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely was some kind of random names for Nash and Hall before they left WCW for WWE.
Yeah.
But
Are you good?
Start of the end. We'll see. Good thing we're almost done. This is driving me insane tonight. I'm gonna have to try out something a little different next week. We'll see. All right. So that's enough for Bash at the Beach, I guess. You pretty much covered it all from what I heard. So when it comes to
Sorry about that.
So we could talk at nauseum about the NWO. Perhaps we will. No, you're good. There was good points to make. And worth mentioning coming off of Bash at the Beach. So, like I said, that could be a full another show for that matter.
Yeah.
Potentially at some point in time. But we'll move on to one of our last two shows. Hoping I don't get booted again, but we'll see. And I guarantee you nothing.
Oh,
ECW
hold
Heatwave
on,
from Philly.
Hold on. Let me go in and get Heatwave 90 Heatwave. So if you get cut off, I know what I'm talking about.
Right? 9 matches. Oh, wow. Interesting. So the show kicks off as you're looking for it there. You got the Gangstas going up against the Samoan Gangstas party, LA Smooth and Sammy the Silk. Best. Did you find it?
I'm doing it right now. There's a lot of shows in December.
Yeah.
Good Lord, Paul.
A lot of this was TV tapings, really. So, Mikey Whipwreck beat some guy named Paul Loria. The Eliminators beat Sabu and Mikey Whipwreck to retain the ECW tag titles. Mikey Whipwreck went back-to-back matches. Surprising. Only one was a minute and a half, a little over. The Dudleys, Bubba Ray and Big Dick Dudley, with Chubby Dudley dances with Dudley and Sign Guy Dudley. I don't know where Devon was that night. Defeated the FBI, Guido and JT Smith with Salvatore Bellomo and Big Guido. Tarzan Gatto. Who the fuck is that? Defeated Axel Rotten. Shane Douglas defeated Chris Jericho, Too Cold Scorpio, and Pitbull #2 in a 4-way dance to win the ECW World Championship. Jericho, the reigning champion going in, got eliminated first by Too Cold Scorpio. 27 minutes into the match. Holy cow, that was a long match. Scorpio got eliminated by Pitbull #2, and Pitbull #2, of course, got pinned by Shane Douglas. 40 minutes and 47 seconds that match lasted. Could you imagine a 4-way?
Yeah.
Interesting. Louis Spicoli defeated Up. Sabu beat Leo Spicoli afterwards. Leo Spicoli, Louis, not Leo, Louis. My bad. He had double duty as well. Sandman, Terry, Bam Bam Gordy, and Tommy Dreamer defeated Raven, Brian Lee, and Stevie Richards with Laurie and Tyler Fullington in a steel cage match for the ECW World Championship. Who the hell won the title? Sandman must have been, because Dreamer was never ECW champion in that version, so Sandman must have been champion.
Yeah, I'm confused. Is that a tag team match or who pinned who?
So the team of the Sandman, Terry Gordy, and Tommy Dreamer took on Raven's Nest members, Raven, Brian Lee, and Stevie Richards in a unique triple fight steel cage match for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship, which stipulated that Richards, instead of defending champion Raven, needed a change. Sandman and Raven fought inside the cage. Dreamer and Lee brawled throughout the arena, and Gordy and Richards fought at the Eagle's Nest. Sandman hit a DDT to Raven inside the cage to win them. The title did not change hands, as Richards had not been pinned. After the match, Brian Lee choked out Missy Hyatt, Beulah McGillicuddy, and Kimona Wanalea.
Oh my fucking God, what a mess.
Wow. So Stevie Richards, who wasn't even the champion, was the one that had to be beaten to have the title change hands. Only in Paul Heyman's ECW.
Oh man. I mean, you got to give it up to his creative genius. And what the fuck is Louis Piscoli going 12 minutes and I'm gonna say
46 seconds.
Yeah, 12 minutes and 46 seconds in a match. Sabu whipped his ass for 11 minutes and 30. Sabu whipped his ass for 11 minutes and 36 seconds.
Yeah.
Holy
Crazy.
shit, Sabu must have been bored.
Well, that was Sabu's second match of the night, too. Because Sabu and Mikey Whipwreck lost the tag team title match against the Eliminators earlier in the show.
This is what you get when you don't have a big roster.
So Sabu had 2 matches. Louis Piscoli had 2 matches on this show. I mean, it might not have looked like that on TV because you had the shows over 3 different days, but. Wow.
So Paul Heyman's the guy to do 3. Hell, Triple H didn't make this up about 2 separate 2 nights of WrestleMania. It's Paul Heyman's idea.
Right. Air on TV over 3 days. So. All right, so that's the end of ECW talk for tonight. We got one more thing to mention about WCW, but it won't be talking about one of their pay-per-views on here. First, we got the last show from WWE before we go into August stuff that we'll do next time. And I just got to bring it up here, though. That'd be In Your House, if you want to bring it up to International Incident.
Oh my God, yes. Oh, International Incident. Yeah, it was a 6-man tag match. It was Camp Cornette, Owen, Bulldog, and Veda going up against the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, Intercontinental Champion Ahman Johnson, and if I'm wrong, I think he got replaced. It was supposed to be the Ultimate Warrior, or was it the Warrior or Psycho Sid? Sid returned.
Psycho. Yep.
A Warrior who got suspended for missing house shows by then on-screen commissioner, president of the World Wrestling Federation, the late great Gorilla Monsoon.
Yes.
And that's when Shawn lost the match that set the match for SummerSlam between Vader and Shawn Michaels for the World Wrestling Federation Championship.
Interesting. Well, a lot of things happened this night, actually. So, Mankind was originally supposed to be in the second match of the night against Jake the Snake Roberts, but Jake Roberts had to be replaced by Henry Godwinn on the night of the show. It doesn't really specify what happened to Jake to miss the show, but Jerry the King Lawler on commentary claimed that he had fell off the wagon, but it was all to lead up to Jake and King is down the road. The match between The Undertaker and Goldust, Mankind revealed that he had not gone to the back after his win over Henry Godwinn, but instead climbed under the ring while the arena was dark. During the match, he would emerge through the floor of the ring, grab The Undertaker by the foot, dragging down under the ring with him, leading to a disqualification victory for The Undertaker after the interference, which we'll get into later. Later on, as Mankind was back in the ring, The Undertaker emerged through another hole in the floor and attacked Mankind. Drew brought all the way to the back of the arena into the building's boiler room, hence leading to the eventual boiler room brawl that we'd get into in another show. And we'll get into the main event here in a few minutes. The show started with the defeating the Smoking Guns with Sonny. Mankind beat Henry O. Godwin with Hillbilly Jim by submission. Stone Cold Steve Austin beat Mark Merrow with Sable in a rematch from the King of the Ring semifinals. The Undertaker and Goldust wrestled to the no contest. Well, actually, it said above that Undertaker won by DQ, but because of Mankind getting involved. And then in the main event, you got the British Bulldog, Owen Hart, and Vader with beating the People's Posse, as they were called, of Ahmed Johnson, Shawn Michaels, and Psycho Sid with Jose Lothario. After Jim Cornette got involved in it. So
The People's Posse. That was their nickname,
Yep.
The People's Posse.
Yep.
Who the fuck gave that name?
I have no clue. I just know that's what it is. General Motors place in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Hence the reason why British Bulldog and Owen had to win that match. Because they're in Canada.
And it would have been an international incident.
If they had lost, yes. I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of ends talking about pay-per-view wise. Nitro was still early on in its time at this, but it was getting bigger with the emergence of course, the NWO, or August stuff eventually. I didn't look to see if Hog Wild was first of the show. That's what we got up next. Part 2 of this show, we'll probably do this once a month is what I'm figuring.
Yeah.
So a month from now,
that'll be
somewhere
fine.
you'll have a specific. Yeah. Well, maybe not in November because we do our big 4 show, of course, but still, we'll get into it. So the next time we have this specific show, though, we will talk the rest of 1996 pay-per-views. Maybe we'll even go through part of 1997. We'll see. If you guys think that we should have a different way of talking about the years during the Monday Night Wars, if you will, if you enjoy this, just let us know as well. It's a fun time in wrestling when you see the NWO first starting to take form. Talk even more about it next week when you and I are back. Hog Wild review show. Hog Wild from 1996. Yep. We're going to talk all about it. Eddie and I both have watched it back last week. Talk about when we get to that show next week. We're doing reviews of just certain. Be the first one on our list. Go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah, and like Tony has said to you, people, we're not just doing these reviews about past of the 3 faces of wrestling. This is the Attitude Era. This is the birth of the Monday Night Wars. We're not just doing it because we're diehard. We love our wrestling. We want to hear, and I mean it, we want to hear it loud. We want you to comment and let us know. Should we, like Tony said, we could keep doing this and going through every pay-per-view. But if you want to do a special highlight, of a pay-per-view, do you want to do something about the New World Order? Do you want to do something about Shawn Michaels' run as the World Wrestling Federation champion in 1996, leading up to his eventual loss to Psycho Sid at Survivor Series of 1996. And talk about, we'll get this when we do our November Big Four, the history of the Survivor Series. But if you wanted to do a profile of debuts at Survivor Series, you got a couple of guys that are now Hall of Famers and who are going to be future Hall of Famers. You have The Undertaker. We could talk about The Undertaker's debut at the 1990 Survivor Series. You can even talk about the man that we all know as the Final Boss. And we could even talk about Rocky Maivia with the worstest hair in the business, making his debut at Madison Square Garden in 1996. People, we're not just doing this because we love it. We want to do it. We want our fans here at Tiger Talk Radio to take their hand, stand it up real nice, go to their keyboard, type in Tiger Talk Wrestling on YouTube, subscribe. We'll give you your notification. Tap your notification for new ones. Leave a comment because this is like Cyber Sunday. You guys control what we talk about. And if you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you. Keep watching, and I know it's going to be more, but we got 2 words for you. Thank you, and do your job.
Yeah, right. We do appreciate all the views we've been getting for our shows lately. It's been over 100 for most of them, other than the last show we did. I do appreciate that. I did see today the subscriber count went up to 260 again. I do appreciate the 260 subscribers. We want to get that even higher, and it's been going up kind of steadily lately. But yeah, I'd like to hear from you guys as well. Message us on social media. You see my social media stuff at the end of the shows, usually when I play the outro. We can include other social media stuff if you want it or need it. But
I am going to say this tonight on Tiger Talk Wrestling. If you want to talk or leave a message to the wrestling god of knowledge, Tony has my Facebook and my Instagram account and my X account. I will gladly put it on there and answer any of your questions about any pay-per-view, in my opinion. This is for the show. We are the thinking fans telling you, and if you don't know nothing about wrestling, go watch AEW.
yeah, really. Even if you guys wanted to, if you got something you want to say about one of these topics that we do shows about, you want to send in a video to us or whatever. So we want more involvement from the people in the shows.
People, I'm going to tell you this. Today I was watching YouTube, and I watched Wrestling Regret with Brian Zane. Am I saying that name right?
I think so.
Okay. Guess what he's talking about right now? He is talking about the 1996 SummerSlam. About the Boiler Room Brawl. I have nothing wrong with Brian. I think he's a creative genius. But I must destroy him. And we must destroy him because he knows about his wrestling. I know about my wrestling. And me being a part of this podcast and helping the great and powerful Oz that is Tony, we want to whoop his candy ass and take what is rightfully ours because, as you know it, we are better than you and we know it.
Nice spin. All right.
You marks.
Yes. You just ask for a little more involvement from people, not just watching. We'd like you to get involved more ways if you can. We understand if you don't want to, too, but it doesn't have to be videos. You can just send us messages, too.
Yeah, and I'm totally fine with that. I feel like we need to. People, we're not going to be like, well, we don't want to answer your stupid questions. No, we want to hear what your thought. Pick a topic. We are just making new shows in this. We are making new shows, because me and Tony, we talk a lot, and when John's there, we talk about trying to make this program better. Without you guys, and I'm gonna admit, and I know I could speak for John because he's our homeboy. Without you guys, I don't think the SummerSlam watch party would it have been as successful as it was.
Right. We plan on doing more of those, too, for that matter. I mean, I know it's a little bit different of a setup as than what other people do, but we liked having it so that you could kind of see us, but no, you mostly were hearing our reactions as it goes along.
Yeah, people, when you heard me, my wife, John, and Tony trying to figure out how the hell did Bailey pick up Nia Jax without breaking her back and her legs?
Yeah.
I mean, that was like, oh shit, she just pulled a WWE moment. You know, we want to hear from you. You want a rivalry? You want a rivalry? We'll give you the Undertaker and Mankind history. You want a heated rival? We'll give you Bret the Hitman Hart and Shawn Michaels. We'll give you Austin and Mr. McMahon. We'll even give you the long history about the late, great Kevin Sullivan and the Wolverine of how many times Into fought in a men's bathroom on a WCW pay-per-view.
Right?
I mean, crazy. We'll even give you one of the crappiest thing I'm ever going to say. You want to talk about crappy gimmicks in WCW? We'll give you that. We'll give you crappy gimmicks in WWF. Hell, we'll even try to figure out what crappy gimmicks ECW had because there were some fucked up names.
Yes, there was, as you heard tonight.
I mean, to us, yes, we know it's entertainment, but damn it, we want to entertain you guys.
We might not be able to show you necessarily full matches of stuff or anything. We enjoy talking about it anyways and hope that you guys know what we're talking about and or at least can pick up things what we say.
I'm going to talk to Tony right now, and you guys, I want you to hear this because, damn it, I want this thing to work. I'm going to have Tony this week. We're going to have a production meeting, and I'm saying it live right here on Tiger Talk Wrestling. Woo! I'm going to have Tony put the top 3 rivalries of WWF, WCW, or any rivalry. We're going to put 3 rivalries, and we want you guys to vote for that rivalry. Whatever ones he wants, we're going to have a voting thing that's going to go up, and we want you to vote for the rivalry. And then we will do a special broadcast talking about that history of that rivalry leading up to title matches or just anything. If you look at it, we can even talk about the history of the Mega Powers.
We could.
Go ahead, Tony.
No, you're good. This is saying we could.
Yeah. We could talk about the history of the New World Order from the NWO, the originals, to the Wolfpack, to the NWO B team, to the NWO Japan.
Right?
Or and I don't think anybody talks a lot about this, but we could even talk about the Latino World Order from Eddie Guerrero, WCW, to the current version we have now.
Do we still have a version
Who
of it
doesn't
now?
even want to talk we got something.
Right?
But we can even talk about who doesn't want, and I know I'm passionate about this. One day I would like to do the history of Eddie Guerrero.
I'd love it.
Eddie Guerrero, and I know I'm talking long, we've been on for 3 hours, but Eddie Guerrero, to me as a fan, he was one of the greatest luchadors of all time. That man was one of the greatest. I think his run as the World Wrestling Federation champion, when he beat Brock Lesnar at No Way Out and then went to New York at WrestleMania 20, I felt Eddie Guerrero was the greatest champion of all time. He always had some great matches. He had a great match with Rey Mysterio at 97 Halloween Havoc. I mean, that was a good one. And then the one that we talk about, the custody of Dominic Mysterio, that we had this year. And back when Eddie and Ray were fighting over in a ladder match.
Right.
I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm going to have Tony laughed. We can even do the custody. We can even do the history of Dominic Mysterio custody battles.
You're right. You'll laugh at that one. There's only been two, but still. How does he?
I mean, we could talk about his puppy Rey Mysterio and his poppy, his real daddy Eddie Guerrero, and then we could talk about his mommy and his new mommy fighting over for him for the past couple of weeks. I mean,
Right.
I'm ready. I think we're ready to expand, but we need your help. We need your help. We want you. Tony will take care of that because I could give him suggestions, but we pick the top 3 rivalries in WCW and WWF and all that. And I have my top 3 that I'm going to bring in tonight. And Tony could tell me if I'm doing this wrong. I want you to give me your top 3, and then we'll cut the show after this, and then we'll post it online. We'll just make a decision, and then we have to correct it. We'll just combine it. My first one, I'm going history. The rivalry between Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
That one's good.
That's the first one. My second one will be Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart.
Oh, yeah.
And then my third one, old Stone Cold Steve Austin and the People's Champion, The Rock.
Yeah. Those would be good choices.
Now, what's yours?
So I would think if I go with something different than you, I mean, Shawn and Bret's always got to be one of them. But
yeah,
I like Ricky and Nate. However, I feel like it's even more. I'm going to go outside the box with one of these two, but the Four Horsemen and Dusty Rhodes.
Oh my God, yes. Definitely.
And this on just WCW, but it involved in WCW and WWF at the time. Everybody loves to bring it up because it's one of the between factions of all time: the Von Erichs and the Freebirds.
Okay, you won.
And you also could throw in NWO versus WCW.
Yep. Or what about another one, Sting and Flair?
Yes, that would be great too. There's all kinds of
And
choices.
then my favorite, and then Savage and Hogan.
Yep.
I mean, they had some battles, and
Hogan and Piper.
yeah, I mean, Hogan and Piper. Oh God, Hogan and Piper. I mean, hell, you can even do Piper and Mr. T.
True. You could.
And then other things we can even talk about the weirdest wrestler wore casts on their elbows. You got to go with you got Randy Orton's daddy, you know, Cowboy Bob Orton, Ace Cowboy Bob Orton, and then you got to go with Owen Hart doing the same thing.
Right.
I mean, we have a lot, but you know, I'm gonna have when Tony gets a chance. I think we should see what people think. Get comments. Should our first one be the Von Erichs against the Freebirds from WCCW? And what a rivalry. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen the movie The Iron Claw, you got to see it. Excellent movie about the good times and the bad times of the good times and the bad times of the Von Erichs. I mean, now that the Von Erichs are still around to this day, you know, Kerry and the brothers are gone. Only one's left. Kerry Von Erich is the only one that's who's the only one that's alive from the brothers?
Oh, you would ask me that.
Take Kevin.
Yes, Kevin Von Erich.
Yeah, Kevin Von Erich and his sons, the Von Erichs, who are now trios champions in Ring of Honor with Dusty's son, Dustin. The Rhodes and the Freebirds, the Rhodes and the Von Erichs are trio tag team champions, which is a story franchise, a story family, both two families. But yeah, the Freebirds and the Von Erichs, man, that was Terry Bandy, Michael P.S. Hayes, and I got the other guy. It wasn't Jimmy Garva. It was some other guy.
Later.
Yeah.
I should be able to remember it. I can't think of it off the top of my head either.
Robert something.
Hold on, I'll tell you in a minute. Buddy Roberts.
Yeah, Buddy Roberts, yeah.
Meet your boy Buddy Roberts. Terry Bam Bam Gordy and Michael P.S. Hayes. Jimmy Garvin
and
was
I
also...
found out that, yeah, they had Michael Hayes, Buddy Rogers, Terry Bam Bam Gordy, Jimmy Garver. Bad Street was Brian Armstrong.
Huh.
And then Blackbird was King King's person?
Parsons. King Bailey Parsons Jr. Iceman King Parsons.
You should see the pictures of the Freebirds. Man, Terry Bam Bam Gordy never smiled in any of the pictures.
I know. It's crazy.
Yep. So yeah, I'm ready for this. So I think we're both tired, and I got to get ready for work tomorrow. So we love all you guys. Thank you for watching again.
Hope you enjoyed. Again, just let us know what you think of the show. You don't want to see you good and the bad. We'll take any comments. For that, though, thank you, Eddie, for coming in. Thank you, John. We know you had a spotty I did. With that, we're going to say goodnight. We'll catch you guys next Thursday with our review of Hog Wild 1996.
Hold on. What did I?
Let's try that again.